Oh, goodness gracious, everybody. Looking at this whole situation with Donald Trump and how people are saying that he's going to be in prison, they're going to lock him up. And they're basically acting like Republicans were acting back in 2016 when they were saying lock her up about Hillary Clinton. They were saying Hillary Clinton's going to be behind bars, Trump's going to put her in prison, and all this stuff. And I always knew that it was nonsense. I always knew that it was bullcrap. Why? Because people like that really don't get put behind bars. And so I want to give my thoughts on this whole scenario with people saying that Trump is going to be put into prison and all this stuff. I am not an expert on the subject. I am not some sort of university educated political analyst, but I do have an opinion, and this is really just a layman's position. I really don't think that Trump is going to be put in prison. I don't think that he's going to be imprisoned because, you look at this whole thing in Georgia, and they're saying, yeah, he called up the Republican Secretary of State of Georgia asking if he could find any votes. He needed like 12,000 votes. And they're basing their charge against Trump on this story, on this event. They're saying, yeah, he made this phone call to this official asking if he could find any votes. He needed 12,000 votes. Where's the crime? Where is the crime? Trump legitimately believes that the election was stolen from him, and he was asking the Republican Secretary of State if there were votes that were ignored or votes that slipped, and that's it. Do you know who else did this? Al freaking Gore did this back in the year 2000. Al Gore did this back in the year 2000. He was looking for 600 votes in Florida. How come they didn't try Al Gore in the state of Florida? How come they didn't say Al Gore is undermining democracy? He is a threat to American democracy. All of this feigned piety, this feigned political piety that I've been hearing for months now, all of this self-righteousness, it's all liberal, secular, Pharisaism. That's what this is. These are liberal Pharisees acting like they're righteous. They care about democracy. He was undermining democracy. He is a threat to our democracy. They didn't say this about Al Gore. And if you don't believe me, look at what Alan Dershowitz has said about this whole thing. Alan Dershowitz, top of the line lawyer. He was working with Al Gore back in 2000 in Florida, trying to help Al Gore reverse the election result, which favored George Bush. And Alan Dershowitz has stated recently that what Trump did in Georgia is exactly what Al Gore did in Florida. And there was no crime committed in the year 2000, and there was no crime committed in the state of Georgia by Donald Trump. Because what Trump did is exactly what Gore did. It really is that simple. But you have this McDonald's looking lunatic, Fannie Willis, and she's like, "Oh no, we gonna make sure that we're gonna make sure to see if a crime was committed." You ain't gonna find a damn thing. You ain't gonna find a damn thing. That's why I'm saying this whole story is just bullshit. This is why I really don't like talking about this story, because it's a nothing story. Liberals are acting as if they found something. They're going to get him. They're going to put him in prison. Oh, yes. The trial is going to start in March of 2024. Yeah, they're going to get him. You do know that Trump can just appeal the hell out of it and take the whole thing up to the Supreme Court. And who dominates the Supreme Court? Oh, his people. Conservatives dominate the Supreme Court. So even if they manage to convict him of anything, right, undermining the election, trying to destroy democracy or whatever, he can just go to the Supreme Court. And Trump is going to try to get this Georgia case to go into a federal court. He wants this thing to go into a federal court. He doesn't want it to be a state trial. Why? Well, I read that one of the reasons, and this is, part of the strategy, is to further diversify politically the jury. Because if you just have the jury in Georgia and it's completely a state trial, then you're going to have a higher chance of more people being against Trump in the jury. But if you make it into a federal trial, then you can get more of a pool of people, more of a spectrum of different people of different political persuasions in the jury, and that will increase the chance of there being someone who is pro-Trump. And with that, you could have a hung jury, because all it takes is just one member of the jury to stall an entire trial. But even if they convict Donald Trump, let's say they convict him, right? They say, oh, yes, we found him guilty. He could just appeal it and take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And who dominates the Supreme Court? His people. It really is that simple. There is an example that I would like to point out for you guys. Look at the example of the former governor of Virginia, Bob McDonald. Bob McDonald was the governor of Virginia, Republican governor of Virginia, and they tried to get him on bribery charges. They tried to convict him of bribery because him and his wife took about $135,000 worth in gifts. We're talking trips, an expensive watch, things like that. And he took all of these gifts from some guy who was selling a diet supplement. And this guy gave this governor all of these gifts so that the governor could promote his diet supplement, his diet pill. So they tried to accuse him of bribery, and they said, look, he took all these gifts. Him and his wife took all of these gifts, and he should not have done that. That's bribery. How could a governor of a state of the United States do this? Blah, blah, blah. He's evil. He's this, he's that. And do you know what Bob McDonald did? He took it all the way up to the Supreme Court. He appealed it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court sided with Mr. McDonald. And do you know who was trying to prosecute Bob McDonald? Jack frickin' Smith. The same guy who is trying to nail Donald Trump right now. And Trump, because he is a former president, has the right to have Secret Service agents be his security until he dies. So if they put him in prison, are they going to have Secret Service agents in the prison all the time guarding him? Are they going to say, yeah, let's put a former president in prison? And if he wins the presidency, Trump's people in the government are just going to say, this man has just won the presidency, and he has a duty to fulfill his Oval Office. Can we just postpone all of this nonsense until after his term is up, and all these charges and all this crap would be just pushed back to the back burner and left there to simmer? And all these liberals are going to complain and this and that, and it'll mean nothing. This whole scenario benefits both sides. It benefits Trump and his fan base and his whole cult of personality, and it also benefits the liberals. These liberals can act all self-righteous. You know, Jack Smith. And Jack Smith sounds... the name itself sounds just as fake as the name Jack Chick. Like, that doesn't sound like a real name. Jack Smith. His real name is supposedly John Lumen Smith. But even that one sounds suspicious. But that's beside the point. You have Jack Smith and you have Fannie Willis acting all self-righteous, and people will say, oh yes, look, they're really going after political corruption. This is how politicians should be acting, blah blah blah. And they can look all high and mighty and righteous and be Pharisees, and people will look up to them. The liberals will look up to them like they're heroes, like they're based liberals against, the evil, corrupt, woman-hating, sexist Donald Trump. And Donald Trump gets really the greatest share of the benefits. He gets the best. He gets the lion's share of this whole thing. He's benefiting more from this than anyone else. He is actually the biggest winner. The guy gets a mugshot, and that mugshot, man, if you look at it, and I'm sure all of you have looked at it already, it looks like he was practicing in front of the mirror for days for this moment. Look at that face. I mean, come on. This guy was rehearsing for this. Why? Because he knows there is no such thing as bad publicity. There is no such thing as bad publicity. And he is using this to his advantage, and it is working most excellently for him. His cult of personality intensifies. His followers are further convinced that there is this grand conspiracy against him. And so the more they go after him, the more their suspicions feel true. And so they look up to him as a hero. They're saying in their mind, and this is coming out of their mouths, oh my God, the deep state, it's real. Oh my God. All of the conspiracy theories that liberals try to squash, they try to say, oh no, all this conspiracy talk about the deep state, it's nonsense, blah, blah, blah. But the people who love Trump see the state going after Donald Trump, and they're saying, oh my God, the deep state is real. It's all real. The conspiracies are real. So they are fulfilling all of the suspicions that these people have, and the suspicions that they have had for years. Oh my God, Alex Jones is right. Oh my goodness, the conspiracies are correct. This is the deep state going after this man. We have to vote for him. And all they are doing is riling up all of the people who love Donald Trump to go out and vote for him. And they're probably convincing people who possibly weren't really that big of fans of Donald Trump. But now they think, this man is persecuted, this is unfair, I'm going to vote for him. So who really is benefiting from this? The person who is the person who is benefiting most out of this is Donald Trump. It really is that simple. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.